from the KDAL studios at Lake and Superior Street in downtown Duluth. It stars Over the Prairie with 8-time Minnesota Music Award winner Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Featuring cool people from all walks of life. Check out previous show podcasts at KDAL610.com. The phone lines are open at 218-722-0839. Now, here's Paul Metsa.
And I wish I could see stars over the prairie, stars over the prairie tonight.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, cats and kittens. This is Paul Metsa with Stars Over the Prairie. Another great show lined up today. We've got writer and district court judge from the East Coast, Mark Gold, on. And then for most of the second hour, one of the hardest working musicians and songwriters in the Twin Ports, Teague Alexi, will be with us in the studio. So you wondered, Stars Over the Prairie, what do those guys do on that show? Well, we interview stars, people that used to be stars, people that want to be stars, people that never want to be stars, people that just grab a beer and go out at night and look at the stars, and everything in between. Cool people from all walks of life in all 50 states will eventually find their way to our studios here at the Big K. Broadcasting in the Zenith City by the Unsalted Sea, 237 somersaults down the hill from Bob Dylan's childhood home, and just a stone's throw away from Bob Dylan Way. We've got kind of a misty, overcast day in Duluth, but not too cold. Winds up a little bit. I'm taking my dog Blue to the dog park, and I'm fostering a little girl named Mabel that spends most of the morning wrestling with Blue, causing trouble in my living room and kitchen. But they're a lovely couple of canines, and I don't know if it's going to be a foster fail or not. In the meantime, we got Mabel from kind of not a very perfect home setting, and my friend was visiting Duluth, the great Professor Ann Margaret Daniel, saw this dog on a little leash with kind of a really dirty front yard with dog droppings and empty beer cans, and Ann, who's a big dog rescue lady, put a little note in the mailbox and said, if you are interested in maybe passing the dog along, as it doesn't look like it has a very enjoyable life here at this house, let me know. Put her phone number in the mailbox. Sure enough, 2 days later, the lady that owned the dog, I got to give her credit, she was right up front. She goes, yeah, I'm really too busy for the dog. I've got stoner roommates. It's not quite working out. I've got half the shots. So Mabel called me, and I got my car and went up and got Mabel on the Central Hillside, and really adorable. She got right in the car, started licking my face, and that started, about the last 2 weeks of canine hijinks and fun. But we're enjoying it. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to hang on to Mabel or find a really good home for her. She's just adorable. If you go to my Facebook page, Paul Metsa, M-E-T-S-A, you'll see photos of her and her new buddy Blue having a lot of fun. What's your horoscope today, Libra? If you were born today, this is what the universe has in store for you. If your birthday is October 19th, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They're keywords you may take to heart during the next 3 to 4 weeks. A refusal to go along with the crowd may be beneficial, but in the aftermath of changing circumstances, you must be practical and may need to work harder than ever to put everything back together. Your attempts to take advantage of investment strategies and leadership opportunities might not provide the satisfaction you expected in November. Consider focusing on social activities, since you might shine in group gatherings during December. You may feel called to tame your enthusiasm and rein in your competitiveness in January. You could rush into things without proper forethought or preparations. February, when your street marts may be in full bloom, that could be the time to address occupation-related policies and develop suitable, profitable new strategies. For Libras in general, your horoscope for today, October 19, 2024. Your thinking is apt to be quite clear and rational today, Libra. This is especially important since others will be looking for your thoughts and opinions on a certain matter. People will know that they can get a straight and honest answer from you, so don't disappoint them. Think through each situation clearly before you offer your advice. You will find that that is worth the effort. Famous people born on this day, really incredible list I put together today. In 1899, Hal Wallace, who was born as Aaron Bloom Wolowitz, was the American movie producer. He produced Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, all the Martin and Lewis movies, Elvis movies, which is near and dear to my heart because I saw Elvis at the World's Fair in 1964. I took Vicky Freely as my guest, my date. We were in third grade. We went to the Mako Theater in downtown Virginia, and I'd seen Elvis and heard him on the radio, but I'd never seen him on the big screen. And there's this really devilishly handsome guy, played guitar, had all the girls, drove nice cars, won all the fights. I said, I think that looks like a good way to spend my life. And I've done that. Not quite as successful as Elvis, but I've had fun. So thank you, Hal Wallace. He also did Barefoot in the Park. He was born in Chicago, Illinois, died in 1986. This was interesting. In 1918, Jack Siegel, an American pianist and songwriter who wrote Scarlet Ribbons for Her Hair and the legendary jazz tune When Sunny Gets Blue and Here Comes the Losers, was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1918, passed away in 2005. 1934, Dave Garr, an American folk singer and songwriter and the arranger for the Kingston Trio, was born in San Francisco, California. Of course, the Kingston Trio is noted for their big hit 1958, Tom Dooley, which was a traditional North Carolina folk song based on the 1866 murder of a woman named Laura Foster in Wilkes County, North Carolina, by Tom Dooley, whose name in the local dialect was pronounced Dooley. One of the more famous murder ballads, a popular hit version, was recorded by the Kingston Trio, reached number one on the Billboard Hot 100 singles charts and was in the top 10 on the Billboard R&B charts and appeared in the Cashbox Country Music Top 20. The song was selected as one of the American Songs of the Century by the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Scholastic Inc. Members of the Western Writers of America chose it as one of the top 100 Western songs of all time. Tom Dooley fits in the wider genre of Appalachian sweetheart murder ballads. But you didn't even think there was such a thing. Well, if you're a folk singer, you know. And that song, Tom Dooley, by the New Kingston Trio, really kicked off what became the folk scare in the 1960s and brought us such people as Buffy St. Marie, Joan Baez, Bobby Dylan, Tom Paxton, Eric Anderson, Arlo Guthrie, and more. 1944, down there in Westmoreland, Jamaica, a young musician was born named Peter Tosh, God-given name Winston Hubert McIntosh. He was the Jamaican reggae musician, one of the original members of the Wailers. and wrote Get Up, Stand Up, Mystic Man, and Legalize It. He performed in the Caboose Bar in Minneapolis when he was playing it with his own band, and none other than the Rolling Stones, several members of that band came down and watched him play. There was a line around the block. The word of mouth was so intense. I can't even imagine these days with social media if the Rolling Stones were to appear at a local club, how long that line would be. Hey, and tough guy, Evander Holyfield, who turned 62 today, was born in 62. He was born in Atmore, Alabama. Won the Olympic bronze in 1988 and the world heavyweight champion of the world 1990, 1991, and 1992. When you think of iconic things in Duluth that people most associate with this beautiful town, the Zenith City by the Unsalted Sea, I would guess the number one vote getter for that would be the aerial lift bridge. I got a great little note. I subscribe to Zenith City Press. My friend Tony Durkins, who's been on this show and will be on again soon. This guy's a prolific writer. He is. You want to know about the history of Duluth, go to Zenith City Press. This guy's got over a dozen books. He's got a book on the aerial lift bridge. Go and patronize Tony and the Zenith City Press. Sign up for that weekly email news blast. It's indispensable if you love the history of Duluth as much as I do, and I'm sure many of you out there do. During this week in Duluth in 1929, thousands of Duluthians gathered along the piers of the Duluth Ship Canal to watch as the crew of the Kansas City Bridge Company converted the 1904 aerial transfer bridge into today's aerial lift bridge. The last trip of the transfer bridge had taken place on July 2nd, and for over 3 months, workers had been converting the transfer bridge into a lift bridge. The top span, unnecessary for the lift bridge operation, but retained to carry water, sewage, power, and communications lines, had to be raised 41 feet to allow the lift span to rise to 130 feet high, enough for all shipping traffic to pass beneath. After removing the transfer bridge, gondola car, new towers were built within the towers of the 1904 bridge, extending the structure 41 feet higher. Man, think about how crazy that must have been. On Saturday, October 19th, workers used acetylene torches. They cut metal straps and rivets, freeing the bridge's entire overhead truss, all 410 tons of it. Then they slowly raised the top span as a crowd of nearly 5,000 people watched. It took some time, during which a seaplane pilot flew his plane under the top span as it was being raised. There's a daredevil. And at least one steel worker mugged it up for the crowd, at one point standing on his head atop the bridge's tallest point, kicking his feet in the air. What a wild man. A camera crew even captured the moment on film. Unfortunately, no one today knows if a copy of that film still exists. The top span was winched into place by 10:30 a.m. With the top span in place, workers installed supports connecting it to the original towers. While one team began installing the bridge, mechanical works, sheaves, counterweights, and cables, two others began assembling the road span framework, which included a combination machinery room and pilot house. Working from each end of the bridge, the teams assembled the framework in sections. The work took time. It wasn't until January 6th, 1930, that the framework was lowered into place at street level, ready for the installation of its 900-ton roadway. The bridge began regular operations on January 12th. And this little piece of history was adapted from Duluth's area bridge. and the canal it crosses. Available at zenithcity.com. Written by Tony Dearkins. Tyler, do we have our guest?
I don't know. Are we expecting a phone call?
We were expecting a phone call, but, in the meantime, let's play a little bit of music from the gentleman that's going to be joining us in the second hour, Mr. Teague Alexi. He's got a new record out. We're going to listen to a song of his and then get a hold of Mark Gold.
Which one would that be? Because you sent me all three.
Yeah, do Working Man. That's a live track.
Working Man? Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, that was Teague Alexi. He's going to be our guest in the second hour here on Stars Over the Prairie. He's going to play live, and we're going to listen to some more songs off his new record. I'm not sure if that song, Working Man, is on the new record or not. It was a great tune and fun listening to it. Teague is actually doing a podcast right now as we speak, and then he'll be on our show from 11 till 12 today. Then he's got a big CD release party tonight at Wusso's Cafe over there in West Duluth. So that's a hard-working dude. On the line is a man that I can't remember exactly who. I think he got a hold of me. He is a great writer, great musical taste, writes for a monthly magazine out on the East Coast called Soundwaves. He's also a working judge, so you got to be careful and don't screw around the judge. You don't want to end up in jail talking or misbehaving around this guy. But his name is Mark Gold, and we haven't chatted in a while. I'm excited to have him on the Stars Over the Prairie. Mark, how are you this morning?
I'm great, man. It's so great to hear your voice. I think I've been stalking you on the internet as a Uber fan for probably, 5 years or so?
I think so, but I've enjoyed your writing. You've given me really brilliant kudos that I'm almost embarrassed they were so nice to repeat them here. But you did refer to me as the other Dylan from Minnesota. I think the first time you wrote about, I believe that was my book, Blue Guitar Highway, so it might have been longer than 5 years, Mark.
Well, it might have been. You get old, you forget how time flies away, my friend.
Yeah, no doubt. But I certainly appreciate your kind words for me. You gave me a great review on my book, Alphabet Jazz, Poetry, Prose, Stories, and Songs. And then I was able to hook you up
Yeah.
with the great Kevin Odegaard.
My gosh.
You did a great article. Of course, Kevin, a long-time Twin Cities musician. He was the guy that helped put together the Minneapolis musicians from Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks and played guitar on Tangled Up in Blue. That Martin D28 is now sitting at the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I was able to hook you two up. Let's start there, Mark, and we're going to just have a freewheeling discussion. I do what I call here the weave. You might have heard of one of the guys running for president talk about the weave, where you start here, you go there, you start. That's what I do here on all of my shows. Trump actually copped that from me. But to start the weave, Mark Old, tell us about talking to Kevin Odegaard. That must have been a thrill.
For me, it was amazing because, that album is just so incredible, Blood on the Tracks. And the story from starting out in New York and Dylan not being happy with it, and then, essentially going home to Minnesota for the holidays, and what I referred to as the Minnesota Men, essentially led by Kevin.
Yeah.
Putting it all together. And, it's just another one of those things, thank God for the Internet, because now I feel like I have another friend out there, and it was just unbelievable talking to him because, he was there. And those of us who are huge Dylan fans, and I know you are, you think, well, what really happened? And the stories that he told about it was just absolutely amazing. And he just seemed to me to be so humble about the whole thing, not pushing himself into, playing on this track or that track or whatever the case could be. And it was just wonderful. And if I can just plug you again, that book was incredible, too. I mean, had me on the edge of my chair the whole time.
He's my guest, Mark Old, is talking about Blood in the Tracks, the Minnesota musicians behind Dylan's masterpiece that I co-wrote with Duluth native Rick Shevchik. Oddly enough, Mark, I met Rick. I'd been reading his byline when I lived up on the Iron Range because he wrote for the Duluth News Tribune. And when my band Cats and the Stars played it, there's a beautiful restaurant that's been here forever called Grandma's, which is down in Canal Park, right next to the aerial lift bridge that I was just speaking about. He gave us a great review called Cats and the Stars, sparkling in Grandma's. I had no idea that years later, literally 40 years later, we'd be writing a book together. But Duluth native, musician himself, and he's got 10 or 12 books to his credit. Are you a golf guy, Mark? 'Cause Rick's a great big golf guy.
I am. I've played for a number of years, not well, but I play. It's a humbling experience, believe me. I mean, trying to do that, but we spend as much time as we can at our place in Florida, and of course down there you can't swing your arm without hitting 3 or 4 golf courses.
Well, and I am. Trust me, you're a better golfer than I am. I try to get out once every year or two, but like they say about golf, and you know this to be true, if you want to get better at golf, start younger.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, look at Tiger Woods. How old was he when he was on that Mike Douglas show? 2 or 3 years old. And the rest is history. It's right. You're right. But, I mean, you could probably say that about pretty much anything, really. The younger you start out, the more you develop it and stay with it. And, those of us who start, trying to do things in our 30s and 40s, man, forget it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your day gig. I believe you haven't retired yet, but you are actually, would you call it a district court judge? Or what exactly do you do, Mark Gold?
Yeah. I'm a Superior Court judge here in Connecticut. Just started my 3rd term, my 17th year on the bench. Thankfully, judges in Connecticut are appointed, not elected, or I never would have gone for it. So we call it being statutorily senile. There's a state statute that says that when you reach age 70, you have to retire.
Right.
So believe it or not, I'll be 70 next October, and I'm going to retire then, and I'm going to sort of kind of hang out a shingle and do some private arbitration and mediation work because I got to keep the gray matter going, Paul.
Well, Mark, so you're 69 years old as we speak. Yep. I've seen pictures of you and your lovely wife and your dog, and I got to tell you, you still have the body of a 68-year-old.
Thank you, I think.
So where did you grow up? What we're roughly the same age. So talk about, did you grow up in Connecticut?
Yeah, I grew up in Mystic, where Mystic Seaport and the Mystic Aquarium is. Very, very small town. Grew up in a little house on the water there. I always tell the story, and I'll tell the quick version, that my parents bought the place in 1958, paid $8,500 for it. My father talked the guy down from $9,500 to $8,500.
Good for him.
They took a mortgage out. Now, when my dad passed away when I was in college, they had been smart enough to get insurance on it. It paid off the mortgage, and I guess, 5 or 6 years ago, we sold it. And, I thought my accountant was going to pass out when he saw what the adjusted basis was.
Oh, I bet.
But, it was just an idyllic way to grow up. Small town. We had the one music store, which, blew music all over town, I would refer to it the same way that Don McLean talked about it. It was the sacred store. Mm-hmm. And you just went there and got your, here's a concept, albums.
Oh, yeah. I still got 3,000 of them in my basement.
Yeah. It's insane, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You just never clean. Because, it's fun when you go and you kind of look at the stuff and the memories that are with those things.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you remember where you bought them, or you remember the last time you saw the artist in concert, or whatever the case may be. And it's just, that essentially is my life. And it's a humbling experience sometimes to go back and just look at all that stuff.
Now that it's marijuana is legal in Minnesota, is it legal out in Connecticut?
Yeah, it's really weird here. It all goes through dispensaries. You probably have that situation as well, but they've pretty much decriminalized it in a sense. I mean, I don't think they're going to go after people because I don't know if it's the same way with you there as it is here. But we have such a fentanyl crisis, like every other state, I think, in the country.
Yeah,
I think that's the authorities are more worried about that than they are worried about somebody smoking a joint or something like that.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is because. Back when I moved down to Minneapolis, I was ever a little short on weed. I'd go to the record store, which is called Orfolk Jokopus, which is where Tommy Stinson used to go when he was 12 years old on his lunch break when he wasn't skipping school, and met Peter Jesperson. Of course, Peter Jesperson went on to discover and manage the Replacements, and has a great book out now. I forget what it's called, but I got to get a hold of Peter and get him on there. But I was always running a little short on weed, and I love to be able to speak to a judge about this. But I could, I'd go down and I'd get the Allman Brothers at Fillmore East, and you could get that double record, and you could get a pin joint out of the spine on that thing. So fortunately now you can get it. You don't have to be quite as desperate as I was back then. Not that I smoke much, but I did take a puff every now and then to lighten the load.
The world has changed so much now. I mean, it's people are, we're going to their doctors now here in Connecticut and getting a prescription essentially for weed to calm their nerves.
Yeah.
And, to hear a prescription for that from a doctor, for those of us who grew up in the 60s, it just makes you chuckle.
Oh, yeah, it does. It absolutely makes you. Well, the thing is, though, and I've been saying it for years, I know people, ex-heroin addicts, ex-alcoholics, that, everybody wants to, whatever your thing is, and you don't necessarily have to use drugs or alcohol to get there, but you like to find that place in your life that produces dopamine, whether it's a good golf game, watching the Minnesota Vikings, going for a run, or taking a toke, or having a drink, whatever it is. I've seen recovering heroin addicts and recovering alcoholics, they take a couple of puffs and they hit that pleasure spot and they are good and they're off the hard drugs. So, I mean, I've been saying it for my line, Mark Gold, for years has been, they go, and you and I, we remember the movie reefer madness, for God's sakes.
Oh, yeah.
People go, oh, marijuana, it's a gateway drug. And it's a gateway back. It's a gateway back from hard drugs. It's a gateway back from alcohol.
Wow.
So, plus it's making...
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Next time you're sentencing somebody, I'd like to quote the great Paul Metsa from Duluth, Minnesota, as I temper my judgment here on you, young man or woman.
There you go.
So, did you play music at all, or were you a sports guy? What did you do in high school?
I was, combination of a lot of things. I did theater, I did some sports, played a little bit of music, but, I never really got the handle on anything. I played a little bit of drums for a few years, but, I haven't touched a stick in probably, oh my goodness, now probably 50 years, and I'm not kidding, maybe more. But, just little dabs here and there, this and that kind of thing. But I pretty much knew from age 8 that I was going to be a lawyer. So,
Now, back then, when we were growing up, you had... were you inspired by any of the television shows that featured lawyers?
There were two, and I'm sure you're going to remember them. One was Owen Marshall, attorney at law.
Yeah.
And the other one was The Bold Ones.
That's right.
And it was interesting because I remember one time my parents were taking me to the library right over the border in Rhode Island, and there was a sign in this little burg called Pawcatuck, and it said Joseph Pirtle, attorney at law. And I must have been, 6 or 7 years old. And I said to my parents, what's an attorney? And fast forward, I've actually sat on the bench with Joe Pirtle, who became a judge.
Wow. That's incredible. You know, I was, there was a lot of television and movies that inspired me over the years. I just mentioned seeing Elvis at the World's Fair in 1964 when I was 9 years old with my date, Christine Friedlieb, and I had $1 to spend. Tickets were 25 cents. Boy, I'm sure dating myself now. And for 25 cents, you get popcorn and a soda. Her parents, Dr. Friedlieb and his wife, drove us down. I remember putting on a clean gold sweatshirt, and I saw Elvis at the World's Fair, and here was the world's best-looking guy, played guitar, swung big time, sang great, drove cool cars, had all these gorgeous women around him, won all the fights, and 9-year-old Paul Metsa said, I think that looks like a really cool way to live one's life.
There you go. I think so many people have said that. I think, Bruce Springsteen told the story about seeing him on the Ed Sullivan Show and saying, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
And, I like you probably over the years, I've seen pretty much everybody I want to see in concert at least 15 times. But the one regret I have is never seeing Elvis.
Yeah.
And, it's you can see some of the clips and stuff, but just not the same thing.
He played in Duluth, Minnesota in 1972. In fact, I think he played here twice. And I was living up on the range. Why I didn't talk my mom and dad to bring me down, I'll never know. But, yeah, it would have, even that, when they call it the Fat Elvis period, he was still throwing down big time in Las Vegas, man. He still sounded great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people, you can't compare, if you will, the young Elvis and the old Elvis. I mean, a lot of different things just happened, and he's still the king. And the great story, of course, is when he dropped that tape off at Sun Records, and Miriam, I think her last name was Kiesler, the secretary.
Right, yeah.
She said, "Who do you sound like?" And he looked over and said, "Ma'am, I don't sound like nobody." and boy, that was true.
Yeah.
It's always the king.
I told this story last week, but it bears repeating. Have you ever been to Graceland, Mark?
No. I love to sometime.
All right, I'm going to give you a tip. I was down in Memphis for the 2018 Blues Awards. My buddy who passed away the year later, Willie Walker, who I played with for 10 years, was up for several awards. In fact, he's one of the most nominated guys in the history of the Blues Awards, and he played on stage, man, blew everybody away. So I went down there. I'd never been to Memphis, and Just loving it. I was staying with this friend of mine who has since passed away, and he lived about 6 blocks away from the first house that Elvis bought. And before he bought Graceland. And then what was also interesting, that was right around the corner from where the 2 sanitation workers were crushed in the dump truck, which started the sanitation workers strike in 1968, where Martin Luther King went to speak and, of course, then was assassinated. He went there to speak on I believe it was April 3rd, was assassinated on April 4th. But anyway, so I was surrounded in that Memphis history. Didn't get into Sun Studios, but drove past. Got a great picture at night with the neon. I mean, just you think about the history. In fact, before I forget, I don't know if you've seen that Jerry Lee Lewis documentary that T-Bone Burnett produced.
Yes, I did see that.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. And the thing, I mean, obviously, as we all know, the music lasts forever. But just to think that all of those titans, those gods, are basically now gone.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's really, really something. I've always thought someday, if money or time being no object, I would think the ultimate music vacation would be to essentially go down the Mississippi River, through the Memphis area, down, my geography's probably off, but down, Mississippi, stop at the crossroads, possibly sell my soul, then go to New Orleans.
Hey, you've been in law for years. You probably have already.
It's funny because the one thing I always wanted to do, too, and I just don't think there are any left, was go to an absolute authentic juke joint.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, everything is so commercialized now, Paul. You can go to a juke joint, I'm sure, in the middle of, Memphis or New Orleans or something like that. But to be able to just go to one that's standing in the middle of nowhere, and it's just, drinking the beers out of the cans and, having the pork and just listening to the real blues. I mean, that's the real world out there.
Yeah, I think there's one or two. There's a guy, I'm trying to think of his name. His nickname is Duck. He's got a place down there. He plays himself. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. But swinging back to Graceland, first of all, I would pay $10,000 to have my best buddies spend a night in the Jungle Room. Just doing whatever the hell we wanted to do. But if you go out back to the backyard before you get to the Elvis's grave and his mother's grave, gravestones, and his dad, there's a swing set that he bought for Lisa Marie. Now, there was a little, looks like a little garage, but that's where they used to whatever that building was before, way back when, they used to hang meat in there. It was kind of a meat locker. And then Elvis and the boys, Red and Sonny, put up some, they were all, they all loved their handguns, so they put up some targets, and they practice shooting handguns there, God knows, after whatever they've been doing. But if you look at the Lisa Marie's swing set, hope to God she wasn't sitting there during target practice. But you could see little dents from the bullets that had ricocheted from the target room, which that's the history I live for, the stuff that you've got to kind of really dig into.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, that's the stuff that's really, I find, extremely interesting.
Yeah.
We all know the story, Elvis, Graceland, the whole bit, But that kind of stuff, to me, it's just a big wow.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I went to, of course, if you get to Memphis, you got to go to the Lorraine Motel. I mean, such a heavy and dark part of American history, but they've done a really amazing job. They've got the Civil Rights Museum there, in what used to be the lobby, and it's you've got to spend several hours to take it all in, and you got to be prepared emotionally for what you're going to go through, because it's heavy. Across the street, where they say James Earl Ray, and not everybody believes that James Earl Ray was the one that assassinated Martin Luther King, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll say it was him. They have the rooming house where he had snuck into and got the spot, the great shooter spot that saw the second floor of the Lorraine Motel. And they had a bunch of James Earl Ray's paraphernalia, like they had his driver's license and the license plate from his car, and he had and then the 6-pack of beer that they found in the back of the car when they arrested him. But this is what blew my mind, Mark. Speaking of the dark nooks and crannies of American history, they had his credit card receipts. He had traveled for several weeks before they caught him. And at some point, he stopped off and had dance lessons.
What?
I know, it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Well, you were saying before, you were asking me about, when I was growing up and stuff. And I remember when I was a little boy, my mom, who was the most caring person I've ever met in my life, and I try to follow in her footsteps, but it's hard.
Me too.
She was the president of the NAACP in New London.
Oh, good. God bless her.
Yeah, and she was just as white as I am.
Yeah.
And I was taught growing up, color doesn't mean anything. And when I was little, Dr. King was one of my heroes.
Mine too.
And I remember thinking to myself that he had to think that someday that was going to happen. He had to have that in the back of his mind, because, times, as you know, were different. And he had to think that somebody was going to take him out. And unfortunately, that's what happened.
Well, he almost in that speech the night before, when he talks about going to the mountaintop.
Yep.
I
may not get there with you. Yep.
Yeah, that's, I go back and watch that a couple times a year just to steel my own spirit, to show you how brave a man could be. Such a leader. And of course, as you as a judge and doing what you've done for years and then becoming a writer, and we're going to get to all the stuff you've written about musically, but the importance of oratory and language.
Oh, yeah.
And just the beauty of the American language, and to watch a man like Martin Luther King and others, when Obama was running, case in point, JFK. I mean, there was guys that we could look up to as young Americans that still obviously stay with Mark Gold and Paul Metsa to this day.
I think, Paul, one of the most amazing stories I ever heard about Dr. King, and you've probably heard this as well, was when he started the I Have a Dream speech in Washington. And he apparently wasn't feeling well. He caught a cold or something, and the oratory wasn't happening off of that. And the story is, I hope this is true, the story is he stepped back from the mic, and one of the people who was there to perform that day was Mahalia Jackson.
Right.
And she went over and tugged his sleeve and said, "Martin, tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream."
Wow.
And he walked back up to the microphone, and the rest is for the ages.
Wow.
I mean, I just get a chill just saying that. I mean,
I got to catch my breath here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to think of that. I mean, but just to have that kind of leadership, that kind of selflessness.
And carrying a really almost an entire race on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And I mean, and look at today. I mean, look at modern politics today. That racism in certain parts of the populace has never gone away. In fact,
no.
I would say it's even worse. Like Joe Biden said, now people, because of a certain person who was in office from 2016 to 2020, said people aren't afraid to put on the white gowns and the white caps anymore.
Yep. It's still a scary world. I mean, we've come a long way, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's just so much more to go. And if you have that, deeply ingrained racism, or whatever you want to call it,
right,
you're not going to change that by a statute or a speech or something like that. It just has to evolve over time, and unfortunately, something like that isn't going to be changed, next Wednesday.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen that way, and it's frustrating. But my feeling has always been, the farther you get away from your front door, really, the less you can change in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been one, and I was taught this way, and hopefully I still do it. You treat everybody with respect. Doesn't matter if they're black, blue, green, purple, yellow, whatever. And there are just as many, bad people who are, again, black, white, yellow, purple, and you shouldn't just, brand an entire race of people because of some bad apples. It's mind-boggling, and there's no answer. I mean, you and I could stay here and talk about this on the air for the next 48 hours and not get anywhere. But it's just, you got to do what you got to do, treat people with respect, and you do the best you can. It's pretty simple.
Well put, Marco. Now let's talk about, we've got about a little less than 10 minutes left. So when did you get into writing about music? Because I've got several issues of Soundwaves magazine that you've been kind enough to send, and it's really, man, they do a great job of covering that East Coast kind of New England music scene. But when did Mark Gold start writing?
Well, it's interesting because the editor, publisher, founder of the magazine, Dave Potty, who obviously is a very close and dear friend of mine, had the idea to start the magazine. Many, many years ago. And my wife, who has met Dave a few times, refers to him as a hippie with brains. And from our generation, that's a perfect description for somebody.
Sure.
But what happened was I was in private practice as a lawyer. I think this was in 92 or 93. And I'd seen the magazine, I'd been down in the Mystic area, seen the magazine, and I just contacted him, cold, right out of the blue, and said, would you be interested in me sort of writing a legal column to help musicians understand, about contracts, this and that sort of thing?
Sure.
And he said, yeah, sounds like a great idea. So I did that probably for a couple of years, and then I ran out of ideas.
Right. And what year was that, Mark?
Now, now we're probably looking into about 94-ish.
Wow.
And then I called him up and I said, I'm kind of out of ideas, but music obviously is a passion of mine. Would you be interested in me turning that column that I'm writing into a music column? And it's been the Music Notes column since then. I've done feature stories, as you know. I've done reviews. And, present company included, I've met such incredibly talented people. I've had the opportunity to meet, some of my heroes, musicians growing up who've become friends of mine. I've hung out backstage and seen these people, how they really are, not, doing their persona on stage. And it's just been breathtaking. And it's unbelievable. It's been so much fun. I can't thank him enough, for giving me the license, if you will, to do that. But believe it or not, I've been doing it for probably a little over 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must literally have hundreds of articles written.
It's funny because when I keep them, when I send them to him, I keep them I used to keep them in a folder here, but then we got to this interesting thing called, computers and the internet.
Right.
And I literally have every column. I have mine. Every column I've written, I think, back to about 2007.
Wow.
Yeah, before that, they're kind of out there in the ether someplace. But I've pretty much got every one. And every once in a while, and I'm sure you do this with songs you've written, I go back and I look at what I wrote and I go, ugh.
Yeah.
And geez, I could have improved that. But, I'm not telling you anything you don't know because you're a brilliant songwriter. You get one shot at it, and you got to think you're right. And if it feels right in your gut, you send it out and you do it. But and listen, you can stand there and buff the thing forever. I mean, it took Bruce Springsteen 2.5 years to make Born to Run.
Right.
It's just you have to just let it go at some point and say, okay, that's good enough.
Well, I'm more of the Allen Ginsberg first thought, best thought.
Yes.
Tribe.
Don't think too much.
Yeah, right. And although I do, what I do is I'll just sit down some night. I love writing on a typewriter. I don't have one anymore. I got rid of it when I moved to Duluth. But I was 52 words a minute in Mrs. Krause's 11th grade typing class. Probably the best thing that I've been able to use from high school into this very day. But I'll just type without not thinking about whether it's going to be a song or a poem or an article, and just start riffing and throw it in a drawer and come back to sometimes years later. I go, that's a good line. Oh, yeah, that's the line I'm looking for,
That's creativity right there. Same way with me. I remember when I was in high school and my parents said, you're taking a typing course, and I went into it kicking and screaming. Yeah. And one of the best things that ever happened to me. I do the same thing. I just sit down, I don't do longhand. I think better when I type, which is weird. But I do that, and I write the thing out, put it away. I do the same thing when I write decisions for court cases. I put it away, go back and look at it, put it away, back and forth, and then finally I say, look,
right,
it's done.
Right. Now, how many words a minute in high school, Mark? Let's a little comparison here. I had 52 words a minute.
I think you did better. I don't really remember. Something tells me it was somewhere in the high 40s, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. You're fast enough to put out hundreds of great articles. We just got a few minutes left. Who are some of your, you look back and go, boy, I'm glad I was able to interview this guy or gal?
Some of them, that's a great question. Some of them were just people I would take a shot at. I'd send an email or contact a publicist or somebody like that. And, the list is pretty long. But one of the guys, and I'm sure you know this guy, is Dave Alvin.
Oh, yeah. I did a gig show open up for him about 4 years ago.
I loved the Blasters. And then Dave went on his own. And I think he is one of the greatest songwriters that we have, and he's also a great guy.
Oh, and a great guitar player.
Oh, my God, can he play. The other one that I did was, and I'll tell you a funny story with this one, I had an opportunity to interview Jimmy Messina.
Cool.
And I've interviewed Richie Furay, who's a friend of mine now, several times, but I had an opportunity to interview Jimmy Messina, and I had a couple of people tell me it's not going to go well. He's a little prickly with interviewers, right. Blah, 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 blah. I'm thinking, oh, boy. So we do the interview, and I've done, hundreds of interviews, and it has to be easily one of the top three I ever did.
Cool.
Intelligent, personable, thoughtful, just, and it was almost so funny because he would talk, and it was just so interesting, I'd forget to ask questions.
Yeah.
So we just had him talk. It was great. Other people, I'm just trying to think of other ones off the top of my head.
Mark, I hate to cut you off. I want you to stick by your phone because we got another guy coming in the studio, but because there's only two of us, one guy's got to man the door while the other keeps the show on. But is Soundwaves magazine? Are they online? Is there a way people can access columns by Mark Gold?
Yes, it's swaves.com.
Beautiful, Mark. Just stick around your phone in case we've got to get back to you. But in the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks for your time. You're listening to the Stars Over the Prairie on KDL 610 AM 103.
I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, you've been great. Have a beautiful weekend.
You take care.
Yeah, you too, brother. KDL 610 AM 103.9 FM. Teague Alexi coming up after the news and the break.
Here's Paul Metsa.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul Metsa on Stars Over the Prairie. We've got my buddy T. Alexi getting tuned up and is going to play. We'd like to thank our guest in the last hour, Mark Gold. I want to remind you, I get my band every Sunday at Carmody Pub, 308 East Superior Street in downtown Duluth from 4 to 6, featuring the great Taylor Shikes on bass, George Ellsworth on keyboard, and Ian Hopp on drums. So come and join us to one of the coolest Irish pubs in the Twin Ports. Eddie and Liz do a great job down there. They're closed on Mondays, but Tuesday night they got a great jam with Bruce Woodman from 8 till 11. Sometimes it goes till close. So if you're a musician out there that wants to try out new songs, sit in with some other musicians, whether you're a horn player, guitar player, keyboard player, you just sing, get on down to Bruce Woodman's Jam at Carmody's Pub, 308 East Superior Street. Here's a song off my buddy Teague's new... I've been trying to get this beatnik on here since I started the show 7 months ago, and I didn't... hard to believe the guy was up this early, but he is. He's on the second show of the day. He did a podcast, and he's going to do this, and then a big show tonight, CD release party at Russo's Cafe. And we're going to play a song off that new record right now by Teague Alexi called The Only Man in Love.
Man so manly, man so brave, man so courageous, not gonna break. Walk in the jungle, not scared of lion, mortified of a broken heart. When he can, every chance, man rolling around the dirt and the mud. The only man on the dance floor is the only man in love. Bring on the goblin, bring on the ghost. Walk through the fire, throw out the smoke. No fear of lightning, no fear of thunder. Mortified of a broken heart. When he can, every chance. Man rolling around the dirt and the mud. The only man on the dance floor is the only man in love. Yeah. Yeah. Rough fella, tough fella. Once had a woman, she turned him to jelly. Can't stand the pressure, and the pressure. You mortified of a broken heart. When you can, every chance. Man rolling around the dirt and the mud. The only man on the dance floor is the only man in love. Whenever he can, every chance. Man rolling around the dirt and the mud. The only man on the dance floor is the only man in love. Is the only man in love. The only man in love is the only man in love.
Is the only man in love? 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 Is the only man
He's the only man in love. He's the only man in love. He's the only man in love. He's the only man in love.
Is the only man in love? Is the only man in love? Is the only man in love? Is the only man
All right, welcome back to Stars Over the Prairie. This is your host, Paul Metsa, my guest for the whole hour in the studio. He just got tuned up, and we're going to ask the man himself. Teague Alexi, is it true? Are you the only man in love?
Well,
Paul, I'm constantly trying to master the art of love and happiness, and
Well, when you get it figured out, man, write the book because you're going to make $1 bazillion.
yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Yeah.
Well, it's so fun to finally get in the studio. I saw you, God, I am going to go. It could have been 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago down at, was it the Trempolo Hotel?
Yeah, I remember that. That was, what do they call that festival down there they do in Winona?
Yeah, it was the
Midwest Music Festival.
Yeah.
That was, and the good folks at Trempolo Hotel down there. Yeah, it was fun running into you down there. I remember, I like that festival. It's kind of like a homegrown knockoff. They studied homegrown to have that festival, but they don't have as much homegrown talent, so they import the talent. But it's really grown though. I've been down there a couple of times. The lady I was going out with for a while, her brother and his wife lived down there, so we'd go down and visit them and check it out. They've got a beautiful. If you play there again, see if they'll put you at they've got a beautiful Shriners building there that has the most unbelievable, like 1928 performance hall that's like walking back in time. It's like Art Deco. It's just really, really cool. But Teague, I've been trying to get you on the show since, first of all, I've got to say, Teague Alexi, you've got the coolest name in the Twin Ports music scene. And where did you come from? Where were you born? Yeah, I was born in San Francisco. My parents were traveling. My parents grew up on the East Coast, and I was born during their traveling years, and then we moved around up and down the East Coast in my youth, and then settled in South Jersey. That's where I grew up. Philadelphia. My whole family's in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia,
what your mom and dad do?
They are bartenders mostly, but that's how they raised us. But my dad is a painter, and my mom has a degree in Irish literature, a master's degree, if I may say so. So she's a writer, and she was a teacher for a while too, but primarily come from working people,
With a little bit of that beatnik flair, it sounds like.
Yeah, the hippie. My parents grew up in the hippie generation, so they were hippies with jobs, I guess you would say. Maybe that eliminates. Maybe you can't call them hippies. I don't know.
I think you can. We just had a guy, Mark Gold, in the first hour that said, talking about hippies who are smart. Sounds like your parents were certainly that. Now, what is Alexi? What is that? What's the
That's
background of that?
That's a Czechoslovakian name,
Okay.
is my understanding. It's not short for anything. It's a pretty rare name. My daughters have done some research, and it's a pretty rare name. But it comes from my other three of my 4 grandparents. I have 2 Irish-born grandparents, 1 English-born grandparent, and my father's father was the only one born, and that's where the name comes from, obviously, and he was the only one born in the States, and he was Czechoslovakian and Hungarian, is my understanding, and he died in, that would be my great-grandfather, and he died working on the railroads when my granddad was 1 year old, so, and that was a common plight for immigrants back in that time to die on the dangerous railroad job. So that was that's where the Alexi name came from.
Where does I've never seen the name Teague. Have you seen that
that's
before?
An Irish name. That's 100% Irish. There's a lot of history to that name, positive and negative, but the meaning that I throughout the ups and downs of Irish history, but it does mean a storytelling, traveling poet is one of the meanings of the name. So that's the one I go with. Yeah.
Now, when did you start? When did you pick up the guitar, and when did you you just get on it really, really young?
No, my brother Ian was always in the next room. He picked up guitar really young.
Is Ian younger or older?
Yeah, he's younger.
Okay,
younger.
And he just had a record out.
Yeah, yep, Campfire Extraordinaire. Check it. But yeah, he was always playing. I was in a hip hop group when I was a kid. Kind of casual. But all my friends were I have some really great rappers who are my
Cool.
best friends in the world, and so I did that as a kid. I didn't pick up guitar until I was 21, and so I've been kind of learning on the fly ever since. I feel like, touring and, kind of like just that's kind of been, trial by fire, kind of just getting on the road, and that's kind of been my musical education. And then, like, the Hobo Nephews of Uncle Frank, my brother and I, that was an Americana project.
I've
It
heard
was
a lot
kinda
about that band.
specifically. Yeah, we worked really hard and did a lot, but when that band started, it was like, okay, I need more. Now that I'm living in Minnesota and I can see, it's as compared to New Jersey and California, you can see and feel and hear the blues and the roots music of this country in Minnesota way more than just faint, sense of it on the coast. But here you could really feel it by like guys like yourself, Spider John, and these people I was coming across when I moved here. It was blowing my mind.
Spider John is my hero. I mean, I got his first record. The first record I got, it wasn't his first record. It was called Spider Blues, and it was, I was about 18 years old. I got a great picture of him on the cover smoking a cigar and wearing these Ray-Ban sunglasses. I go, I got to someday meet this guy. And then when I moved down to Minneapolis in 1978, there was a great scene on the West Bank back then. There was the 400 Bar and the Cafe Extamp and the New Riverside Cafe. The old Triangle was around. That was kind of the forebearer of all those places, and the Viking Bar. Music every weekend, all those joints, and Palmer's, of course. And John daily went to Palmer's to have a beer in the bump and play and do the New York Times crossword puzzle. So you could see him in the morning, but at night on the weekends you could usually run into John. So finally I go in there, and I had been, I went to Palmer's every weekend because that's where it was. We had a lot of fun, and I saw Kerner. I go, damn, I'm going to just get the courage to go up and talk to John. So I went up and I bought him a beer in a bump, and they used to have really nice frosty grain belt mugs. So you get a nice frosty glass of grain belt and a shot of brandy or whiskey. And I was really shy. And I go, John, I said, thinking about his great record he did with Willie Murphy, Run and Jump and Stand It. So I said, John, you ever going to play with the band again? And he paused and he goes, man, anybody can play with me, he said, but I can't play with anybody else. And I go, oh, yes, master, I will know. Now I'll go back to the mountain and contemplate and come back in 6 months and let you know what I've learned from that. But, yeah, for sure. So, and now you've got, really the modern version of Dave Ray and John Kerner is, of course, our friend Charlie Parr.
Yeah. Yeah, he's another one who I saw when I got here, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's relevant.
How did you end up in Duluth?
I have two beautiful girls, and I was my beautiful ex-wife. She's from here, so we came up here to raise kids. Yeah.
What year would that have been, T?
I moved here in 2000.
Oh, okay. So you've been here almost a quarter of a century.
Yeah, it flies by, but
it does. What when you moved to town? What were your initial feelings of the town itself and the music scene?
I didn't think there was a music scene in Duluth. I was living in Holyoke, which is about 45 minutes south of Duluth. And not many people know
I
it.
passed through Holyoke. I have a good friend of mine, Terry Carlson, whose, I think, grandparents lived in Holyoke. But I always took that 23.
Oh, man, great drive.
When I had time, when I was coming up to Duluth from Minneapolis, because it's a great drive.
This time of year.
Yeah, you just take that sandstone exit. But Duquette.
Yeah, Duquette.
You stop at Duquette,
store.
that general store.
Mm-hmm.
They have some of the best ribs and porchetta. They have porchetta that's as good as you get on the Iron Range. So and it's just like walking back, and it's like built in 1880 or something. But yeah, I love that drive.
Yeah, great drive. Yeah, my first image, I didn't think there was going to be a scene in Duluth. I went down to Minneapolis and played an open mic at the Cedar Cultural Center.
Sure.
And somebody told me down there to go to check out Wuso's open mic night in Duluth. I was like, okay. And then I went there, had a great night. I met Jason, who now all these years later, we're finally making an album together.
Cool.
And I was kind of off and running in Duluth after that.
Well, in terms of a beautiful circle, you've got a record that you did. Was it with All of Woodblind, which is Jason's band?
Yeah, there's like 10 or so people in that band, give or take.
Right.
I might have lost track, but and there's also the TNT Hi-Fi DJ crew from Bent Paddle. They do dub versions, and they're very involved on the album. They did the artwork, so
cool.
And like speaking of like Spider John and I do a lot of solo things, but man, it's nice to have a whole crew, when you're putting out an album and just have, musically for one, just to have, all these different musical talents on that record is great. And then just have like, there's a lot of people to be, I just like having a big family of people surrounding the songs. It's great.
And it's fun. If you play with somebody, you're going to trust somebody, and it's always good to have somebody else. You don't have to take what they said when they have a suggestion, but it certainly doesn't hurt because there's a lot of people out there that both you and I play with that can really add to the music if you give them a chance to make a suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got Teague Alexi. Let's tell us about the show tonight, and then we're going to have you play a live.
Great. And can we play one of the tracks from the record? I transitioned to a cell phone guitar tuner. It's just
yeah. That's no problem.
I can't recommend that less to tune your guitar with a cell phone. I cannot recommend it any less.
Yeah,
so we could spin one. But tonight's going to be great. We got the whole crew. We got special guests. Bent Paddle's been really great supporters of this project, especially, and just local and regional music in general. So really appreciate those guys. Yeah, good party tonight. We worked hard on the record all summer. So
what time is the show?
7:00.
Usso's Cafe over there right across.
Bent Paddle.
Oh, it's going to be at the Bent Paddle? Hey, better
Jason
yet.
Jason Wusso will be there at Bent Paddle.
Well, the music scene is incestuous, and so is the music cafe, beer, and whiskey scene here in town. Well, we're going to let T get tuned up here with his cell phone tuner while we have my buddy Tyler play one of the tracks off the record.
Well, I got this gentleman sport coat, that high class baby of mine, that baby of mine, that high class baby of mine. She about 5'6", 6'7", 8'9". You may see her walking by, you can never catch her. That baby of mine, yeah, that sweet baby of mine. She about 5'6", 7', 8'9". And even when she gets temperamental, my 6 Trilingual Continental, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna slow down. She knows 6 nickel and 7. She like 9 nickel and 10. I tell you again. I tell you for the 3rd time. She about 5'6", 7', 8'9".
start a garden. And if you need to start a garden, indoor or outdoor, go to our friends at Grow Your Own Garden Supply. They are located at 1801 West Michigan Street. Mario and Brooke, a great young couple, are going to help you out whether you're going to grow indoors or outdoors. They specialize in indoor gardening. They have a wide variety of houseplants, unique pottery, and a multitude of garden-related accessories and local handmade gifts. Their motto is grow kind and grow local. They are one of the couples at the beginning of what I'm calling the New Duluth. They're right at the edge of the Lincoln Park Craft District and just a couple doors down from our friends at River City Records. Find out more if you can't make it at 1801 West Michigan Street. Before you get down, go to growyourowngardensupply.com.
Every day deserves a superior beer. Earth Rider Brewery's decorated brewers hand-select hops that lend citrus notes to the crisp and easy-drinking Superior Pale Ale. Visit Earth Rider Brewery's Cedar Lounge Tap Room on the Working Harbor in Superior for their award-winning flagship and seasonal brews on tap and to go. To find out much more about Earth Rider Brewery events, join the mailing list and locate Earth Rider Beer near you at earthrider.beer. Hold fast.
They got a lot of stuff going on at Earth Rider, outside all summer and inside at the Cedar Lounge. Monday, Service Industry Night at the Cedar Lounge. If you work in the biz, serving beer or serving food, serving something, but being a service to people, go there and get $4 pints all day long. Tuesday is jumpsuit, 7-piece. Really cool jazz instrumental outfit. Wednesday night, Lazy Lightning 420 with Eric Berry from Trampled by Turtles, Mark Gartman, and Teague Alexi, my guest.
Hey.
You get around, Teague. Hey, they got a big Halloween show. And it is called The Wandering Eye. The Ween Tribute on Halloween. Perfect. At the Cedar Lounge. That one has Mark Artman again, Ryan Young, Tim Saxog from the Trampled by Turtle outfit. Just go to earthrider.beer and track down where to get tickets. So Teague Alexi is going to be, you guys are doing Wednesday nights over there. I saw your show. It was really cool at the Ripple back when they were still going. Geez, I think it was last spring. Tell the people a little bit about the concept for that show, because it's a little bit like the Dark Star Orchestra, where you take a Grateful Dead show. And
I just joined this band within the last year or so. I was kind of a part-time contributor before then, but Lazy Lightning 420 plays full Grateful Dead shows.
Wow.
Never have repeated one. And it's great because the Grateful Dead change their set lists all the time.
Right.
So it's really fun. It's really fun because maybe like half the people, I don't know, it's hard to judge, but there's a bunch of deadheads that come and they know
Right.
exactly what we're doing. They know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then a bunch of people, just come, more casual interest. But it's really great. And as a musician, it's been really, to bite into that Grateful Dead American Songbook. Their version of the American Songbook is cool, and there's a lot of good old blues tunes that I get to play, and and cosmic blues, just all that stuff has been great as a harmonica player, and those are my brothers, my musical brothers, Eric and Mark. So, and the family of Grateful Dead people, it's like really a pleasure to play to those people. There's a lot of passion and a lot of love.
Do they go like
a lot of spirit?
Hey, Austin, Texas, May 17, 1977. They did not go from Friend of the Devil and to Not Fade Away. They went.
We're careful not to make those mistakes because
you don't want to pee all those guys off, right?
Yes, we will be called out on anything like that. So we do our best, but at the same time, they've been very. I'm playing a lot of harmonica in that band.
Oh, cool.
So we're kind of like, I think Eric is a historian of the band. He calls us. I shouldn't even something. Eric's gonna have to get something like if Pigpen was still alive in '82.
Oh, cool.
Is what we're going for. But he would put it in better words than that. But so we're kind of messing with the formula a little bit. But just adding instruments, trying to keep the same feel, of the Dead, and the crowd couldn't be better. How welcoming of me. and the band in general. The band is just, it's great.
Cool, man. Well, we've got Teague Alexi in studio, and he brought this beautiful guitar. Tell us about this harmony guitar.
Yeah, this harmony guitar. Big shout out to our buddy Marty Reynolds, who brought this old 1944 harmony guitar back to life, and I still take it down to him. He's the only person who's ever worked on this guitar since I've had it. But I've had this guitar for over 20 years now.
Wow.
And I felt like when I walked in, I found my guitar that day. It was just sitting on the wall in Minneapolis.
Is that cool how that happens? I found more guitars like that. It's like I don't need a guitar. I'm not looking for a guitar.
I was not shopping for
And then
guitar.
you walk in to a guitar shop or wherever, and the guitar goes, "Hey, you, over here," right? And then you go, "Damn."
Yeah.
Then how much? And then you got to negotiate. Yeah, I know. I've got a handful like that.
And I remember Marty was like, and I told him, I was like, Marty, I'm a professional musician. I can't walk. It didn't have a pickup in it, so I said I can't leave here without a pickup.
Right.
And he's like, I'm not putting anything less than a Sidewinder pickup in that thing.
Right.
So,
Right.
So that's always been our relationship. Is like, he's insisting that I keep this guitar in the high, like the gem that it is.
Well, I was, when you were taking off your jacket, you were kind enough to let me play a couple chords, and I could just go, oh man, this thing has got, God knows how many hundreds of songs have been played on it, and you as a songwriter, man, how many hundreds of songs are still inside that guitar that that Teague Alexi's the guy that's going to write them.
Yeah, man, I like that, and Marty agreed with me that this guitar keeps sounding better the more that it's played.
Oh man, it sounds great. Well, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Let's hear it live. This is.
I got this song from. This is on the new Woodblind meets Teague Alexi album. This is called Lion's Share. I am a lion, and I come for the lion's share. So when you see me scratching at your doorstep, ooh, you better beware. Good Lord, hear me. High above the mountaintop, loud and clear. I am the mighty king of the jungle. I come for the lion's share. I've been climbing up from the valley below, one step after the next step, to the mountaintop I go. 7 trumpets, walls of Jericho. I raise my voice when I hear those trumpets blow. I am a lion, and I come for the lion's share. Oh, when you see me scratching at your doorstep, ooh, you better beware. Good Lord, hear me. High above the mountaintop, loud and clear. I am the mighty king of the jungle. I come for the lion's share. There are diamonds, there are pearls. Anything else, it's a kind man's wink to a blind world. 7 cities of Cibola, and the silver and the gold, and the rich man's sidewalk running right down the middle of the road. I say, whoa, no, not on this day. Somebody gonna give me something, somehow, some way. I am a lion, and I come for the lion's share. Oh, when you see me scratching at your doorstep, ooh, you better beware. Good Lord, hear me. High above the mountaintop, loud and clear. I am the mighty king of the jungle. I come for the lion's share.
I am the mighty king of the jungle. Come for the lion's share. I am the mighty king of the jungle. I am the mighty king of the jungle.
Ooh, listen to that guitar just hang in the air. Man, that is a great song, Teague.
Thanks, brother.
When did you write that?
A couple years back. I mean, I went on a big songwriting sabbatical, a couple years back, and I came up with that one, and a bunch of other tunes. A few years ago, I kind of decided, Paul, that I was doing everything at the same time.
Right.
Trying to do everything at the same time. So I went through a process of, all right, I'm going to write 20 songs. I'm not going to think about anything else.
Right, good
that's
for
going to
you.
be my main focus. And then after that, okay, I'm going to record, and I got to record these 20 songs. So that's kind of what I've been doing the past few years.
Cool.
And the next step is coming.
Now, how many records have you put out?
Oh,
This is a record. Well, I used to be the little black things that were round, and you put them on a thing that turned them around and around.
I guess I put out an album called Circuit Sessions with Eric Pollard and Steve Garrington and Jake Hansen, some really good guys. And before that, I put out an album called This Dance, that's produced by Eric Koskinen. And before that, I have an album called The New Folklore, done with the crew guys called the Feelin' Band and Nicholas David. So I've been lucky. Those are all my solo albums. Play American music.
So when you say on the road, where was the road? Where'd you go?
We went everywhere. We went from Boston to San Diego to Key West to Seattle, and most places in between. Yeah, we hit it hard for about a decade there, Yeah, really great.
Did you have a booking agent, or was it in-house?
Yeah, we did. We had down in Memphis, Bucket City. Booking. We had Hello Booking in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, I know those guys.
We worked with another couple other people over the years, but those were the main ones. Bucket City got us on the road first, and then Hello Booking picked us up later.
What do you think now? So when's the last time you kind of were out there on the road? I've never, truthfully, Teague, I've never been a road guy. It's just like I've done it a few. Like if I played New York or Austin or Boston, I'd fly out, usually stay with a buddy, rent a car if I had to get around. Although New York and Boston, you didn't have to do that. But I never quite figured out how to do that road thing. I mean, I've gone on the road. I've driven down to Chicago and driven to Madison and played. But it's like I never quite figured it out. And a couple times with my band, a couple times solo. I never figured it out. That's why I love my house gigs. But were you guys able to, how many guys in the Hobo Frank outfit?
Well, it was great for us because it's me and my brother.
Okay.
And we can do it as a duo, but for a lot of our tours, we had our drummer, Paul Grill, with us, or fiddle player, Ryan. So a lot of times on the road, we were a trio. But even so, it was easy. We kept it simple, we didn't bring a sound guy or merch guy.
Right.
We kept everything really simple and just,
you were still able to come home with a few bucks.
Yep. But I mean, again, just being a smaller band, just being a duo or three-piece, the money splits up a little better.
Oh, yeah.
And smaller vehicle. So we kept it as simple as we could. We tried to really keep it about the music,
right.
because it was really what we wanted to do was spend less time kind of like having a band and figure, the bass player's not available, so we got to rebook that. Like all that stuff that ends up taking up a lot of your time. I was kind of a new professional musician at that point, and I realized man, I haven't written a song in the 2 years since I've been a professional musician.
Right.
Because all I'm doing is booking and coordinating and all that. So the idea with the Hobo Nephews was we're always going to be available 99% of the time.
Yeah.
I'm not available for my kids' birthdays. Other than that,
1-800-HOBO, right?
Yeah, ready to do it. And that was the idea. We played all night, every night, as much as we can. Any place would pay us a few bucks.
Yeah.
We'll drive all the way. We'll drive all night or all day to get there and play.
Wow.
And and did that for years.
That's why, and I played with the band for years and loved playing with the band because now my band, we're doing Sundays at Carmody's Irish Pub downtown with my four-piece, and from 4 to 6, and I love playing with the band again. But I've been playing, solo and duo for 20 years. But what I loved when I finally figured out, I remember back in the 70s, I was playing with Tim O'Keefe, who was originally from Duluth. We had a little kind of a country blues duo called Metsa and O'Keefe. We were the only Finnish-Irish acoustic blues duo playing the upper Midwest coffee house scene. And I'll never forget, we were playing up in Moorhead, Minnesota at the college and at the coffee house. And there was a check there. This was about 77 for, I don't know if you were around when Lonnie Knight was playing. He was a phenomenal guitar player and songwriter. Anyway, he did a solo gig and he was making $300. And I said, if I could ever do a gig by myself and make $300, I will have thought I had died and gone to heaven. I did eventually years later. But the cool thing about playing solo, and you do it a lot now, you get a check, you divide by 1, and the number that's on the left side of the equation is the same that's on the right side. After you take out, of course, your bar tab.
Yeah, and it's always give and take, because like walking in, it's also a lot different to walk into a venue with a band and walking by yourself. Because when you're kind of at the mercy of the bar when you're by yourself. Yeah. But when you bring a band, it's like you can kind of take over the bar. So it's what's best is to have a balance.
Yeah.
A lot of time, like I said, like sometimes all the band leader stuff, is just zaps everything out of me. Like all my my creativity, everything. So I like a good balance of and playing solo all the time gets old too.
Yeah.
I like a balance of playing different people and different projects. And what's great about Lazy Lightning is I'm a sideman.
Yeah. I dig that.
And Woodblind too. I'm essentially a sideman. I mean, I'm kind of the glamour guy on the album, but when you see us live, it's
you're the eye candy.
Oh, I don't know about that. But yeah, I'm basically a sideman for most of the time with Woodblind. Lazy Lightning, I'm primarily a sideman. So I really like, it's great to be the sideman.
Yeah,
really fun and so I like having the balance, being the leader, sideman, different projects, playing with a drummer, without a drummer.
Yeah.
I love playing the string bands, and I got the funkiest drummer in the Midwest. Shout out to Tyler Dubla. Although Ian Hoff is really good too.
Oh yeah,
Tyler's my guy. Ian's like the next generation of funky drummer.
Is Tyler playing tonight?
He is, yeah.
Oh, cool. Once again, Teague, tell us what's going on at Ben Paddle.
Yeah, Ben Paddle tonight. We got the whole gang is going to be there, is my understanding. My guy Tyler on drums and Jason and Vaco are really the heartbeat of Woodblind.
Yeah,
they have a lot.
I've seen them as a duo. They're great.
They are, right? And they've been on the road with ska bands quite a bit. They got a lot of ska credentials, and then the rest of the band around that, like Jimmy Cooper, a great virtuosic guitar player, and Eli, same on fiddle. Lefty's played percussion in probably most of the great bands in Duluth in the past 20 years.
Yeah, he's. I've heard him with the Dogs, the Salty Dogs.
He's in the Black Eyed Snakes. He used to be in the Black Labels. Too many banjos. He's been in a bunch of great bands, but so he's a treasure. Had back there Jen West. George Ellsworth, who was also in your band.
Yeah.
Great player. And got Jacob Mann too from Salty Dog. He plays organ on this, sings on the track. So we got it's a great crew. And 7 o'clock, Ben Paddle tonight.
Well, you pretty much in that description of who's playing tonight and who's playing on the record, you really exemplified how cool Twin Ports, I would say even a little more so, the Duluth music scene is. How many great musicians there are here in this city.
Yeah, and as a songwriter, you know, it's like every time I would see Woodblind, I'd be like, man, you know, if I ever could write a good ska tune, I would have a way better ska band than I would deserve to play it, you know? Right. So that's kind of how this came about. But I always think in those terms anyway, you know, and as a songwriter yourself, like there's so many good players here, like what's the combination?
Right.
You know, like who is, like, you know, what's the combination of people that's going to bring this song or you know, song either singular or plural, like, you know, to life the best, and like bring this, you know, keep the song at the forefront, but just bring every ounce of beauty out of that song.
I totally get it, man. When I've been blessed to have great musicians for, you know, going on 40 years that I've recorded with and played with, and I'm not the, you know, I'm the songwriter. I play guitar and I sing, but I'm not the guy. You know, that can, like George Ellsworth, for example. We were rehearsing last night, and he can hear these harmonies in his head and can hear the little keyboard riffs. He was playing keyboards with me. Though I heard he's a great bass player. I'm looking forward to hearing that. But I've always been fortunate. Like, I trust my fellow musicians' intuition, and they're 99% of the time, man, you just if you trust a musician, you're playing with them, the part they're going to play for your song is the right part. Mm-hmm. You know, you might go a little bit, you know, a little more staccato, maybe lay out on this part, maybe just a little different harmony here. But overall, if you surround yourself with good musicians, man, they'll do most of the work for you.
Yeah, well, you know you got the right guys. If you don't have
right, exactly.
If you don't have
good
to say
point.
a lot, then you know you got the right. You know, so usually you want to pick the guys. You know, like before you get to the practice session, you know the type of guys that you want to play with, and usually that's why they're there. Because those are the best musicians. Right? They already know. They instinctively know what you want.
So, who are your some of your favorite musicians in town? Not to necessarily play with, but when Teague Alexi has a night off, who do you like to go hear?
Okay, I should shout out first Teague Alexi and the Common Thread. I should mention those guys. That's my guys Tyler, Rob, Jacob, Owen, and B. Wells on the bass. But who I go see, I love Salty Dog guys. I'm a part-time harmonica player with them. But whether I'm playing with them or not, I love their energy and creativity. Is really inspiring. I like Jerry Small a lot. I like Sarah Kruger. I'm ditto on both those women.
Yep.
Geez, who else? I'm going to have a blank here.
How about, have you ever done any
Boss
projects?
Mama.
Oh, yeah. She's been in that. She was on one of our first shows.
Yeah.
Have you done anything with Al Sparhawk?
Yeah, a couple things. I've sat in with the Black Eyed Snakes on harp a couple times over the years, and I have a 14-minute long story song in my catalog. Every songwriter's got one of those, right?
Oh, yeah.
14-minute long story song. But anyway, Alan Sparhawk plays one of the characters. He plays King Joe Collie, and Charlie Parr plays the other character in that story, called The Wisdom of King Joe Collie.
Can that be found online?
Yeah, it's online. It's online.
I can track it down.
Yeah, really proud of that. And Alan's always been like since I first moved here, I was playing music and my band kind of was doing well right off the bat. And Alan, I remember he came up and introduced himself to me, and couldn't have been nicer and more.
Yeah, he's such a gentleman.
And just like he's always been like rooting for me and always had little tidbits of advice for me and everything over the years. So really grateful for that.
And he's a real deep cat and swings like the pendulum do, man.
Great. I don't know any musicians like Alan. I know a lot of great musicians. Nobody anywhere near like Alan.
He's John Lennon territory.
Yeah, that's quite a statement.
It's quite a statement because it's true. Teague Alexi, let's hear one more song here before we get the hell out of here on the
this is
Stars
an old
on the
one of
Prairie
mine.
radio show.
This is called Old John Doe.
First John thought the world was the color of the rainbow. It turned out big signs. So you paint the world a fantasy. You paint the world a fantasy. Some were born to begin at the bottom of the mountain. And with just one stroke of the pen, old John Doe get knocked back down again. Now old John be a sleepwalking contradiction, a trick into being a hypocrite. So you paint the world a fantasy and enjoy yourself a little bit. Well, everybody knows that there's only one way that the Mississippi River flows. So, John Doe, don't forget about your fellow John Doe. Yeah, old John Doe. Some were born to begin at the bottom of the mountain. And with just one stroke of the pen, well, old John Doe get knocked back down again. Yeah, old John Doe get knocked back down again. Yeah, old John Doe get knocked back down again.
Oh, yeah, let's hear for John Doe. Man, that was... I'm really digging, I've never... When I saw you down, years ago at the Triplo Hotel, it's a bar, everybody's talking. I was talking because I'm with my, gal and her family. But I'm really... I love your voice. I love your style on the guitar. But... You've got some really great lyrics. I just have this feeling you've done a lot of reading in your life.
Yeah, I used to be what one would call a voracious reader. Yeah. And I plan on getting back to that at some point. But yeah, going back to being, a little bit of a rapper as a kid. And,
yeah, right.
And kind of like always understood like how to write a punchline and how to write a transition line and all that, like all that stuff is that kind of at the forefront of writing when you're just a kid, like right. Writing raps, So I have a published book. I'm a published
really?
author.
What's it called?
That goes back to the wisdom of King Joe Colley, 14-minute story song. The book is called The New Folklore, which is also the name of an album of story songs. But yeah, so I did a lot of writing during that period and then transitioned from publishing that, having that book published by North Star Publishing. But then I transitioned right to writing short stories for the Duluth News Tribune. I was like a monthly columnist for, I think that lasted about a year and a half. So that was like kind of one of those things I'm talking about. I felt like I was doing everything at once, and I took a couple years to focus on my writing.
Well, Tika Lexi, this has been just enjoyable. I'm going to come see you tonight at the Bent Paddle at 7 o'clock.
Well, I'll come see you Sunday, man.
Yeah, please do. That's a deal. Bring a book. I'll trade books with you.
Okay.
Okay, that's a deal. If you got any ideas for guests or your business wants to get the word out to a really cool audience, get a hold of me at paul@paulmetsa.com. Carmony's Irish Pub every Sunday from 4 to 6 with Paul Metsa, the Tiltown Titans, and more of my books and music and good stuff at paulmetsa.com. Everybody have a great weekend out there. Once again, thanks to my buddy Tika Lexi and my buddy Mark Gold out there on the East Coast. And like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.